there already. Okay, good afternoon to all. Now voice is Dr. Subankar Basu. He has completed his MA Sociology from Jabalpur University, then completed his PhD from Jabalpur University. Now he's working in Surat. Basically, he's a Bengali. So he has a wide area of knowledge and he's a sociologist basically. So he says that I have requested him 2 days back to be able to speak to our trainees. And he said, I am very much interested to take the knowledge from them also. So hopefully he wanted to say he has given a topic is on researching research. What do you research? How you will do the researching? That is the topic he has given. Researching research. That is the topic he has given. So maybe he is my best friend, well-wisher, and whatever I have been publishing in SAGE and all these genre. But despite of that, despite of my confidence, after completing my paper, I give it to him to give a nasty comments. So he is a very good in it. So once he corrects my paper, it will not come back for correction. So that much confidence I have with the Subankar Basu, Dr. Subankar Basu. Now I request Dr. Subankar to take the room session and share your experiences with this. There are 32 people comprising political science, education, economics, and geography, agriculture, library science. This is the combination. Okay. Within that, I think 3 people have completed PhD. They want to revive their research knowledge, and maybe 8 to 9 people are in the advanced stage of PhD, and the remaining are first year of PhD. So hopeful this is the combination of this group. Kindly share your experience with these people, how they do research. What is research? How research can be done in researching it. Okay, that is the title you gave. So I'm sure you will be a good asset to them. Thank you so much.
Nice to see you again, bringing back my memories, etc. And thankful to CMDR, thankful to you, thankful to your friends. Okay, those who are associated to. I am thankful to everybody. Okay, and especially Brahmanandam, my good friend for long. Nice session, no doubt. It is something that my understanding is that at the very beginning, when I was approached to have this session, one thing that came to my mind is we started with stone, and today we have iPhone in hand. Okay, am I audible in that matter?
Yeah, you are perfectly.
Okay. So nice.
You can a little bit down. Keep the camera a little bit down. Yeah, this is so nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
In that matter, actually, we started with stone, and then today we have iPhone with us. This is all because of research. And if I allow my heart to speak, and that I should to some extent every time, because sometimes otherwise I will invite trouble if I allow my heart to speak in many occasions. But here I can tell you that in that way we are knower. Knower in the sense that since it is coming from the no verb, okay, when we do something we are doer, when we sing something we are singer, when we listen or listener we are singer, etc., etc. But here we are knower, and in that context I would like to bring to your knowledge one very small couplet of Rumi, Persian poet. The angel is free because of his knowledge, the beast because of his ignorance, and between the two remains the son of man to struggle. This son of man to struggle between the two, between let's say angel and between beast. So therefore, somewhere we are down the line. Sometimes I think if I can't be a knower, I may be a Januar or equivalent to Januar. Therefore, that is my obligation otherwise to be a knower. Okay, and let's say human life, and again, commitment is when I have to carry my head, I will make it worth carrying. When I get into the class, I ask my students, in which form would you like to have knowledge? All you are here for knowledge. Knowledge is power, intellectual property rights, etc., etc. So therefore, they are, okay, let's say they are silent. Question is, well, then I again ask, is the question valid? In which form would you like to have knowledge? Everybody wants to have knowledge. They are silent. Then I make them understand that, let's say, milk has several forms. It may be sweet, it may be curd, buttermilk, ghee, etc. To that extent, there are several forms. You may like a particular form. Okay, so in this context, in which form would you like to have knowledge? No answer to this question. Of course, this is something odd. This question is something odd, and in that case, I do make them understand that if you ask me this question, my answer would be simply theory, theory, theory. I don't want to learn anything beyond theory, or I must want to learn knowledge in terms of theory. What is theory? Theory is a statement of variable relations. Theory is a statement of variable relations. We relate two variables, x and y, or let's say y to x. X is understood to be independent. That's why we sometimes call it X factor. But come down to the point. Let's say sugar or our obesity depends on fast food. Obesity depends on fast food. Students' result depend on their studies, preparedness, etc., etc. Temperature, pressure depends on temperature in physics. Charles' law, Boyle's law. So therefore, if temperature depends on pressure, we can relate temperature to pressure. We can relate mosquito to malaria or malaria to mosquito. Unless and until we relate, unless and until we connect dots, we are nowhere. We are Alice in Wonderland. Okay. So therefore, my point is, in this context, everybody is a researcher from day one. Everybody is a researcher from day one, and we will remain researcher till the end of our life, because every time, every now and then, something is in our mind and we need to search for the answers. But again, come back to the point, certain things that I need to understand in that way. There are two worlds. There are two, because this is okay how I understand it. There are two worlds. One is taken for tested, another is taken for granted. Taken for tested, taken for granted. Now, scientific world, taken for tested. Science doesn't want anybody to have trust, but to prove it, to put it to test time and again. Science wants it to be tested time and again. So therefore, in case of social life, to a great extent taken for granted. Okay, we have taken it for granted and living with that granted common sense. This is for those who are living in society. Researchers are also living in society. but to some extent they are supposed to be different. When I am a researcher, then I am supposed to observe what others are doing. Then I am supposed to make myself value free. Because let's say if I have or if I carry a particular value of my own culture, value system that I have or inculcated with, then I may not be a good researcher. Therefore, it is imperative for a good researcher to be out of society, out of cultural milieu. This is very difficult. Everybody is living by default. Okay, you don't have to be a sociologist or social scientist to live in society. Everybody by default is social. Therefore, I say, okay, they are social because of that particular common sense taken for granted reality. But for social researchers, we need to get into someone's shoes to understand him. That is okay. So therefore, two words, one for taken for granted and taken for tested. There are three domains. One is, let's say, science. Here you need to pay attention to. One is science, black and white. Another is social science, gray. Another is, let's say, coming to that point, you have humanities. To that extent, I consider it Alice in Wonderland. Poetry does not create any knowledge. Knowledge in terms of theory in terms of variable relations. Okay, poetry may have lots of words of wisdom, but at the same time, poetry does not create knowledge in terms of variable relations. Science does create knowledge in terms of variable relations. Social science, of course, to some extent, the way we have, let's say, Newton's law, okay, equations, your Einstein equation is equal to mc square. We see one equation, both the sides are same. But in case of social science, you cannot expect to the extent of purifying it to the level of science. So therefore, in our case, it is some sort of, let's say, gross idea or gross concepts. I can give you three examples related to when we say science hitting the bullseye. When we say social science beating around the bush, we know the bird is hiding in the bush. But bush being very big, we keep on roaming around and beating around it. Third one is about humanities. When you, let's write a poetry, then you are in your imagination and then, okay, you enjoy the fantasy of Alice. So therefore, you are no longer, okay, related to that variable relations in which you are making knowledge. So that I understand humanities, I understand in terms of Alice in Wonderland. Three domains: science hitting the bullseye, social science beating around the bush, and humanities, that is Alice in Wonderland. Now question again is, knowledge is essential for each and every society. Every now and then we need to have. And when we come back to that, it's a theory of variable relations. In social science, we have theory, but such theories are mostly conceptual frameworks. Here, matter is black and white again. What are we dealing with? We have concepts, any number of concepts. But question is, when it comes to conceptual framework, then we are not sure as to how to construct that conceptual framework for something to understand, okay, or to reality, or to create a reality otherwise available on ground. In that case, knowledge is conceptual framework. But the question again is, big question is, it is epistemology and ontology. Every subject has its own epistemology and ontology. See this one. Anyway, matter is not difficult as such, but the fact is, okay, just a second. Yeah. When it comes to, let's say, ontology and epistemology, knowledge has two central dimensions, ontology and epistemology. Epistemology of a theory is intimately connected to its ontology and vice versa. So therefore, ontology and epistemology. Epistemology is all about how to know. Ontology is what exists. So therefore, existence is ontology. But let's say ghost exists. To some people, ghost may be a reality. It may not be a reality in science. But the question is, how are we going to understand the reality of ghosts that cannot be seen during day, but at night they may be very prominent otherwise to some people. Therefore, when we talk about, again, positivism and interpretivism, that we have two domains otherwise in social science, two different philosophies you can understand in terms of methodology too, that when we talk of positivism, mostly we talk of scientific research. Okay, nothing to be positive in that matter, but when we talk of positivism, we talk of scientific research, quantitative data, SPSS. Okay, we have otherwise in social science. Okay, that is called SPSS, and there are different variations of that one. But the question again is, what are we going to do again with quantitative data? I will come back to that point, but let me complete it. Now, question is, another part is, let's say, interpretivism. Taj Mahal is beautiful. Taj Mahal is beautiful. That may be fact. That may be the fact, taking for granted reality, taking for granted. Someone can say it is not beautiful. And you cannot say no, that you are wrong. Here the matter is interpretivism. Beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. If beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, then it is a question of interpretivism. And as a researcher, I need to rely on that particular statement made by the respondents. Of course, that has to be made by large number of respondents. If, let's say, a particular community or group of people consider that Taj Mahal is not beautiful, whatever reason they may have. But the fact is, as a researcher, I will be duty bound to oblige what they say. I cannot confront with them that Taj Mahal is beautiful and you are wrong. Because here you are getting into the social construction of reality by the people, for the people, of the people. And I am an outsider in that matter. But again, sometimes I need to be insider with reference to that participant observation. Okay, so therefore, there are two aspects. Your epistemology depends on the reality that we need to uncover. Okay. In case of social science, it is social reality is constructed. Social reality is constructed by its own members. And as a researcher, I am standing outside. If I need to go deeper to understand why and how they are creating it, then definitely participant observation is required. And in that participant observation, I must not come out with my own choices that this is like, or this is good, that is bad. Let's say in that matter, if you try to, again, I can give you an example, very live example. Do you agree or disagree if I say the tongue is biological, but taste is social? Would you like to agree or disagree? Tongue is biological. The tongue we have, it is biological, but taste is social. Are you going to agree or disagree? Let's say to one non-vegetarian, like me, because I'm a non-vegetarian, if you give me a tandoori chicken, I will say very tasty. But if you give that one to a Jain, staunch vegetarian, even free of cost, they are going to vomit it. They are going to see and vomit. They can't appreciate the taste. Why I am appreciating the taste? It is the same tongue almost, biology. Tongue is biological, but taste is social. In that case, question is, culture has made my tongue to appreciate a particular taste. Culture has told me from day one that you are supposed to appreciate this taste, not to appreciate another taste. So therefore, what I am today is what I was convinced to like or forced to like in the past without my knowledge. Such is the reality of mine, such is the reality of yours. Therefore, you may not be able to come out frequently, but you need to know as a researcher who you are, your cultural profile, and what, let's say, your being researcher demands. What sort of commitment, what sort of culture a researcher should have. If I try to understand in that way, that what should be the culture of a researcher, answer would be researcher must be value free. See, again, in that case, we have Weber, we have, okay, another sociologist, Radha Kamal Mukherjee. Okay, two different views. Weber wants sociologists to be value free. Radha Kamal says, no, it is very difficult for human being to be value free. Therefore, we need to differentiate that, no, they are respondent, they are the masters, I am the servant. Servant in the sense that my duty lies in bringing out social reality. Nothing more, nothing less. So therefore, for the time being, I am a researcher. And what research needs, you need to be free from your own values. So therefore, it is something very, very daring. Because otherwise, if you are, let's say, for example, a Jain, you are, let's say, doing ethnographic research on tribals, and if it is related to participant observation, you may have to, let's say, have food with them, be it dinner or lunch or breakfast, several times. You need to be with them maybe 5 years, 10 years. Okay, then you cannot think of being a vegetarian or non-vegetarian. So anyway, this is ethnographic research. But coming back to question, that when we talk of research, definitely it is, particularly social research, it is interpretivism. So when it is a question of interpretation, we need to go by that interpretation. There are other aspects too in that way. Okay. Very nice point in that case, because some students are, okay, let's say, some are from scientific background, etc., or from science. Geography is also, social science is also, but social science is not so science. That's why it is, I call it gray area. When black and white gets mixed up, then it becomes gray, and it is gray area. Therefore, what you say may be right, what you say may not be right. In the morning, I was wondering, let's say the social science, we have it with us right now, or the methodologies or the philosophies we have related to, okay, social science research, mostly imported from Europe, mostly imported from the West. They have every possible information. They have every possible software to process data. But the question is, what happens when it comes to peace? Why is Europe failing to have peace? Europe doesn't have data related to conflict. It cannot be the case. They have every possible data related to conflict. But again, I thought on it, and then the answer came out in that way. They might have studied and must have written good number of books on each and every possible war that Europe experienced or created. But they did not come out with the very concrete research as to why war in general takes place. Okay, that we can see in Marxian theory. But question again is, when we try to understand and arrange data accordingly, we need to have some philosophical. See, knowledge at the top is philosophical. At the bottom, it is information. Knowledge at the top is philosophical. At the bottom, it is information. In between, we have theory. And once we have theory, that theory cannot be formulated without methodology, and no methodology can be formulated without philosophy. So therefore, philosophy, methodology, theory, these three things are very, very important part. What students mostly get confused in this matter, to my understanding, is a difference between method and methodology. Okay, what I do teach and say students in that matter, that methods are methods of data collection. Don't be disturbed by that. You can give that chapter to others also. Make a questionnaire, don't give it to others to frame the questions. You can make the questionnaire depending on your research question or so, etc., and give it to others to collect data. When it comes to interview, etc., that you can do. But the question is, what constitutes methodology? I can give you a very small example that is going to be very live in your whole life. In case of, let's say, primary level math, we have simplification, 2 plus 3 plus, okay, or divided by 4 and multiply by 8, okay, subtracted by 16, like that. That is called simplification. And you cannot start, let's say, if it starts with plus, minus, then division and multiplication, you cannot follow the same order, plus, minus, division and multiplication. What you need to do, you need to start from, let's say, division and then multiplication, then addition and then subtraction. There is a format, there is a formula, and that is called BODMAS. You need to follow that BODMAS. There is logic behind that. Why B comes, bracket comes first, then off, then division, then multiplication, then okay, addition and subtraction. That logic constitutes methodology. Methods are simply for data collection. Give it to others. Don't disturb yourself. But you need to get disturbed time and again with the methodology that you want to again cook. It is tailor-made. It is not ready-made. Your research question is tailor-made. It is not ready-made. So therefore, you need to know, what you are going to do. Okay. And to what are the challenges, etc., that is there. But again, question is, when are you going to see this one? Beauty is there. What are you going to start with? Hypothesis or a question? What are you going to start with? Hypothesis or statement? A question. Open-ended question. Open-ended. What are you going to start with? See, again, beauty is there. Lots of beautiful things are there in intellectual work. Is it research or research?
Research.
Is it research or research?
Research.
Or both? Is it research or both? If you have it, you have the whole lot of, let's say, entire thing is in your hand. Okay. To my understanding, it is both. At the beginning, it is research, one word, because I don't know the answer. Nobody has the answer. Okay. Nobody in the planet has the answer to this question. That's why we are searching for the answers collectively. Okay. Because it is social science or any other science, it is interdisciplinary. Knowledge is interdisciplinary in that matter. Be it and science and social science, okay, in that matter, at larger level, okay, I don't see any difference otherwise. Question again is, when we don't have the answers, we are searching for it, therefore it is research. Once we get the answer, then we need to be sure whether the answer is correct or incorrect. If correct, to what extent? Then we go for research. And when it is research, we create one hypothesis with two, okay, or a few variables. Dependent X, Y is dependent on X. This is how it is understood in hypothesis. Then we need to find out some data in order to prove whether hypothesis is right or wrong. So therefore, first of all, it is research without answer. When we have the answer, then it becomes research. Then you need to have the hypothesis. But before hypothesis, we are empty-handed, we have no knowledge. Therefore, it is research. So therefore, in that case, if you go step by step in your mind, that you have a question, open-ended question, and then you have some assumption. Okay. See, every chain smoker is not suffering from lung cancer or oral cancer. There are many suffering without having had any smoking or so. Many are suffering from lung, it may be from pollution, etc. But if you understand that smoking cigarette, that may be injurious to health, that is also scientific statement. But smoking cigarette causes cancer, that may be a scientific, unscientific statement in science. Okay. It may, not, it can. Okay. Smoking cigarette causes cancer. That's why we have two other things. One is causation, another is correlation. One is causation, another is correlation. Science can go for causation. Okay, you allow a pen to drop, it will drop, and then let's say ultimately, okay, you understand in terms of Newton, gravity, etc., etc. But every chain smoker is not suffering from lung cancer. Everybody eating sweets is not suffering from diabetes. Everybody having, let's say, fast food is not suffering from obesity. How are we going to understand it? Correlation. When you talk of social science, to the extent of correlation, we establish correlation. Beyond that, okay, no scope, very little scope. You can refine it, but beyond that, very little scope. What we need to do, we need to correlate one fact to other. Again, there is one interesting point in that matter. Are you going to consider the society as a collective whole, as an integral whole, or it is, let's say, in that way, assembled, the way we assemble computer, CPU, different parts put together, it is assembled. Okay. How are you going to understand society? Are you going to study institutions separately, or you consider society as a collective whole, qualitatively different? You might be knowing that statement, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Is it aware in that way? Whole is greater. I can say that it is qualitatively different than the sum of its parts. So therefore, and again, it is known as Durkheim sui generis. When it is qualitatively different, it is sui generis. Now let's try to understand our body. We have different organs, and for each and every organs, medical science has created one specialist, neurologist, cardiologist, nephrologist, okay, skin specialist. For each and every organ, there is a specialist. There is no specialist for health, overall health. What I need at the end of the day is overall health. I don't want my liver to be good at the cost of kidney. Okay. In that way, question is, are we going to study institutions, be it education, be it law, be it state, be it bank, be it finance, market, whatever? Okay. Are we going to study institutions separately? Trend is to study it separately. Trend is, when you have problem in liver, go to the liver specialist, brain specialist, like that. For each and every organ, there is a specialist. But who is going to take care of your health? Here lies the question of social science. Society understands social science, understands society integral whole. And when it is integral whole, we need to understand. See, there are 5 aspects to look into. There are, when you are a researcher, okay, collective whole, very complex whole. Collective whole, complex whole. Okay, you are with very small, minute knowledge in relation to that collective complex whole. Okay. You can understand the age of your first, see, there are 3 parts of your name. First part is, okay, let's say your name, your first name, second part your father's name, and third part your surname. If I ask you how old is your surname, you may not have the answer. Everybody is aware of the age of first part, second part. I am of X age, my father is of Y age, Y years old. But what is the age of, okay, your surname? Question is, let us be humble. I expect the researcher to be humble first. If we may have the answers, ignorance will invite lots of answers, and ignorance will create lots of confidence. But we need to be careful. We need to be careful. that is the answer because of ignorance. Okay, we need to be careful. For that we have hypothesis, and we use the technical term hypothetical deductive, okay, logic. And again coming back to the inductive deductive. Now the question is, when you are going to study, let's say, one educational institution, then again you are supposed to link it to other institutions, okay, because ecology is something that cannot be. Particularly social science students are to pay attention to 5 aspects of each and or any given problem in that matter. Social structure, then social action, social structure, social action, functional integration, culture and power. 5 aspects. In this context, I would invite Mill, C. Wright Mills, and that particular book, okay, or that particular chapter, it is sociological imagination. Okay, you are not supposed to be, if you don't belong to sociology, again, it is for all. It is for all to understand that sociological imagination. And that imagination is to relate an individual to structure, social structure, because we are not supposed to understand an individual as an individual. Therefore, the moment I have, let's say I have to pay attention to 5 different aspects while conducting research: social structure, social action, functional integration. If it is not integration, it is disintegration. If it is disintegration, then we have problem. So therefore, social structure, social action, functional integration, culture and power. Power is everywhere. If I say that no 2 individuals can stand without a structure, would you agree or disagree? No 2 individuals can stand without a structure, because here it is a relation in the sense that let's try to understand one plus sign. It is not simply vertical and horizontal. Okay, here it is when you say, let's say ABCD. Okay, when it is horizontal, people living in that line all are equal in terms of power. When it is vertical, then again question is the person at the top is with maximum power. People at the bottom is without power. Okay, and try to understand one more point in that matter. Pyramid is very, very stable because of a very large base. Can a society be stable with a very large base? Pyramid is very stable with a very large base. Can a society be stable with a very large base? Answer is no. Why? Because who are at the bottom? BPL. Who are at the bottom? BPL. Clear idea? So therefore, if you have large number of people and those who are above BPL are also equal to, if not same, they are almost similar to BPL. So therefore, if you have large number of population, okay, those who are deprived constitute the base, then that society cannot be stable. Okay. So therefore, if you try to understand that social structure, social action, what people are doing, and then functional integration, if it is not integration, it is disintegration. And that disintegration is a reality going on. And then you try to understand culture and power relations is everywhere. So therefore, that is going to invite you, help you understand and invite C. Wright Mills, sociological imagination, to link your respondents to the structure or individual to the structure and biography to history. 2 aspects: individual to social structure and then biography to history. So therefore, if you have it in mind that as to how I am going to unearth, going to bring out the reality, and that reality again, it is not going to be your, let's say, mental reality that you can have mental construct that this may be the reality, that may be the reality, But what transpires from the data, and that data is, let's say, on two sides, you have qualitative data and quantitative data. Okay. Can you give me 1 minute time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because, 1 minute time, because I need to recharge my phone. Data is coming out to be only 90% consumed. Just give me 1 minute time.
Son's age is X, father age is Y. Then what is his surname age? Z.
Maybe his father also, forefather also is there, no? How can you say that?
No, Kelsian really isn't there. No.
Both that there is, no?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now again, coming to that qualitative data and quantitative data, lots of controversies are there. My point is that okay, qualitative, primary, secondary, but at the same time, when it comes to quality and quantity, and for which we have two different methodologies. For quality, we have interpretative, and for quantity, we have positivism. My personal understanding is that go for mixture. Here, mixture has a technical term that is called triangulation. Go for both. Why I'm telling you? Because you need to have the quality of quantity and quantity of quality. Let's say, try to understand in that way that milk is good for health. Milk is good for health. You are drinking, let's say, 5 liters of milk every day, knowing that milk is good for health. You are drinking 5 liters of milk every day. But the question again is, you are not paying attention to quality. Okay. So therefore, again, let's say someone is paying attention to quality, but he is drinking, let's say, 100 ml milk. But okay, 100 of this milk is pure milk. Okay, I'm having it because that fellow is very much aware of quality, not quantity. So what my understanding is, for each and every matter, you need to have the quality of quantity and quantity of quality. Unless and until you relate two things, your research is not going to be, or that result is not going to be comprehensive in that matter. Okay. Therefore, have that triangulation. It is called triangulation, to have quality and quantity together. Coming back to other aspects, for example, in that matter, okay, what I left a bit ago, when we get into, let's say, positivism, or let's say in that matter, I will tell you, at school, any school, everybody completed school. That is why we are here. Go to school lab, the practical exam book has 3 different columns. First column is about experiment, second column is about observation, and third one is about inference. This is how we do conduct experiment in lab, science lab. Experiment, observation, and inference. According to Einstein, this is nonsense. I'm quoting the term. According to Einstein, this is nonsense. Okay. And then again, you might be knowing that particular statement of Einstein, that knowledge is what remains when students forget everything they learned at school. Okay. And then what remains after that? Here the point is, what he wants to make, that it is not experiment, observation, and inference. What I am supposed to see, And theory is going to give you that particular idea as to what you are pay attention to. So therefore, unless and until we get into a theory, the moment we have a theory, immediately we can go for hypothesis. But again, that theory, how will the theory come? Therefore, again, you can understand it in terms of cycle. You can understand it in terms of cycle. I can't show it in that way, but I can tell you what we have: two different domains, theory and data. Now, you might be aware of two different logical methods, deductive and inductive. When we say, let's say, what I understand from my point of view, that the greatest invention of social science is that particular statement when it is said that man is mortal. This is without exception. It is beyond science. When we say man is mortal, we did not see every possible man to die. But we saw A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we decided that no, man by default is mortal. And when we say man is mortal, X is a man, X is mortal. So this is how we derive from deductive, okay, to inductive. That means from theory to statement that, okay, man is mortal, X is a man, X is mortal, so therefore X will die in future. In that way, it is okay. But again, question is from data to theory, if we go, then again, we need to have some sort of generalization that A is dying, B is dying, C is dying, E, then ultimately all will die. And in that case, when we say all will die, man is mortal, thereby we creating one theory. So therefore, there is this connect between theory, hypothesis, data, again, theory or generalization in that matter. So that you need to be careful about. But my point would be not to be so specific with reference to your output. Because in social science, you need to create some questions also in making research. Okay, my point again is, if you discover something wrong, that would be a best possible research. If you discover something wrong, taking for granted reality is wrong, that would be best possible research. And again, for those who are going to, let's say, have or going through PhD or going to conduct it in that way, going to go for PhD, I would suggest them to have review of one thesis, review of a particular, any thesis you like, but you must be very critical. Think yourself the, okay, master of all. Be critical of that particular thesis and make it a point that I am not going to commit that many mistakes which are committed here. I did it, but not before, okay, being a PhD holder. I did it for a candidate, but at the same time, it was because of different relations. But what I discovered that no, had I done that before I conducted my research, I would have a better thesis. Therefore, you must, because this is your first and this is your last. That is also a reality. You are not going to have a second unless you go for postdoc, etc., etc. Point is, you must go through, take one thesis, pick out whatever you like, go through that one, come out with critical observations, and make sure such mistakes are not going to be done in your case. Okay. And again, when it comes to, let's say, I would discourage you not to go by any hypothesis, because Newton was to a great extent reluctant of getting into hypothesis. But the point is, go for open-ended question. Let's see what comes out to be. Okay. And then accordingly, you can frame that sort of research design as to how, what sort of methodology, how much quality, how much quantity, how to have triangulation of that. And then, okay, develop that research design, your, what is that called, sampling, okay, because you have respondents who are going to be, that size is also something very important. And because you cannot approach to everybody, what could be the questions? And in that case, my suggestion would be must not ask questions with implied with answers. Questions having answers, okay, hidden. Otherwise, they are going to oblige you in that matter. Ask open-ended questions. And then go for that sort of interview, etc., be it structured or unstructured or open in that way, semi-structured. And then you come out, analyze. And when you are going to analyze, then again, question is what sort of theory are you going to? Because at the end of the day, you need a theory to develop. What would be your theory to develop? It may not be in terms of equation like E is equal to mc square, but at the same time, you need to have some sort of, okay, let's say it can be again explanation, ethnographic explanation, because it is not your society, you are studying the society of others. You are studying the society of others because it is their understanding. If you want to study Jain society, okay, they are completely vegetarian. Therefore, it may be their interpretation, but again, at the same interpretation, you can find some sort of justification. You can find some sort of justification. See, here you need to pay one attention to that. I pay attention. Otherwise, I suggest others also. Between in psychology, though I am a very critic of psychology because I understand mind is a social product, and thereby when it is a social product, therefore there is no psychology. And again, question is, how are you going to study the minds of others? Because mind is something that you cannot study it from outside. What I want to say and what I say, both are not the same. What I say and what I want to say, both are not the same. So in that case, but the question is, in between sensation and perception, there lies an interpretation, and that interpretation is social. Between sensation and perception, there lies an interpretation, and that interpretation is cultural. So therefore, whatever interpretation you have or whatever perception you have, that perception is not psychological, it is social. Okay, so therefore, even if you see people psychological, etc., but take it to that extent that there is social factors to create that sort of mind, that sort of mentality. Okay, therefore, your point would be to start with one, let's say, open-ended question, and then literature review. You may find, may not find, but again, question is, when you get literature review, don't write it just for reference. Make it a point. Let's say, who are going to be supportive of your statement? Who are the writers supporting your thoughts, directly, indirectly? Who are the writers who are against your statement or against your thoughts? Make in that 2 points, because it is not simply putting reference as such. In literature review, you must find out who are supporting you, who are opposing you. And those who are supporting you, okay, good part. But those who are opposing, as to why they are opposing, why they are different, that must create special interest in your thesis. And then third part would be, let's say, to create one research design as to how you are to conduct it, and then come out with data, and then data analysis. Again, when you have data analysis, of course, you need to have methodology in place. What sort of, okay. And then again, when you have, let's say, data analysis, then what sort of theory you are going to bring out of that. And then again, you have the larger question. When you have theory, of course, that is going to be for others to study. Therefore, it is a chain reaction in that matter. It is, okay, let's say, cyclical order. In that matter, we need to understand, let's say, research. Okay, research from research to research to research. Research to research, and again, that hypothesis, that research can give you something completely new, completely new. Again, I'm telling you. See this one, between that last year, I think last year, 3 physicists got Nobel Prize for their studies on quantum entanglement. What is your understanding? Is God playing dice or not playing dice? Is God playing dice or not playing dice? Einstein, no, God is not playing dice. Would you like to go by Einstein to say that no, God is not playing dice? God has calculation before him. God is doing okay with lots of calculations, or God is doing whatever he likes. Is God doing whatever he likes, or God has some calculation? According to Einstein, he has some calculation. According to quantum, okay, no calculation. We don't know the reality. So in that case, what would be your approach to this? Okay, two scientific schools, playing dice, not playing dice. And how are we going to understand that? Because human beings are not predictable. You can predict atom. Any atom you can predict because you know atomic weight and you know how this particular atom is going to react in a given situation. But a human being, a group, cannot be predictable to that extent. But again, we have the history as to how that group reacted or responded to others in the past. In that case, my suggestion would be, even if you see hypothesis is becoming defunct, go for that. You must remember Karl Popper falsification test. If it is not tested in that way, then again, okay, consider that no, it is not done. If Karl Popper doesn't come to your mind while conducting research, if, okay, let's say that Mill doesn't come with sociological imagination or imagination in that matter, then again, something is wrong. Okay. And then ultimately, nothing is final in social science. Nothing is final in social science. Whatever you may have reality, or whatever you may have that this is real or appear to be real, to that extent, even if we come to the point that appear to be real, you can be satisfied. But at the same time, whatever you think being true in today's context may be outdated tomorrow. Okay, very, very fast changing. In case of legislation, IPC is going to be defunct. We have another Sanghita. Nai Sanghita, what is that called? Sanghita? Okay, IPC, new IPC, okay, coming out. Okay. Yeah. So in that case, if you go by, again, question is when you talk of legality, when you talk of legacy, then again you get into Foucault discourse, power. Okay, because you have another part, structural, post-structural, modern, postmodern. How are you going to understand modern? Very interesting topic to understand your research with reference to modernity, postmodernity, your research with reference to structure, beyond structure. Okay. How are you? Because I understand in that way. For example, again, I tell my students that modernity to be understood with meta-narrative. I use the term, frequently I use the term because the term is something that can give you lots of things at a time. Meta-narrative, one narrative is for all. One narrative is for all. Example is balanced diet. Balanced diet, one diet is for all. Scientific. You cannot say no, it is not scientific. But the same diet may not be good for all the students or all the people. So therefore, what we need? Customized diet. Depending on your physical conditions, your requirements, you need your diet. Multiple narratives. Modernity stands for meta-narrative. Postmodernity stands for multiple narratives. Okay, so you may have, as a researcher, you may have multiple narratives from different respondents. And if you think that you are confused, then no. You get into postmodernity. You understand in terms of postmodernity, that will give you sufficient theoretical support to justify your theory or thesis being true. Because you, at the end of the day, you need to defend it. Everybody would be critical of it. At the end of the day, when you submit your thesis, everybody would be critical of it, and they will show as if you have done something wrong or some blunders done. And then again, in that context, you need to defend your thesis with reference to modernity with reference to post-modernity, and again question is structure and post-structure. Structure, you know that, okay, let's say makes us, because we are nothing, okay, in presence of structure, or we are nothing in structure, because structure dictates us what to do and what not. Okay, constraining and facilitating, both. It constrains, it facilitates. So therefore, what we do, it is because of structure allowing us to do and not to allow, okay, not allowing us to do. Second part, when you come to post-structural, then again you are getting into discourse, getting into power. Okay, and when I say IT cell, not with reference to any political party, then again you can see discourses coming, discourses available in the society. Okay, and then how people are becoming the victims of the discourse. So therefore, again, question is very interesting topic, or interesting point. Research is very interesting, and nobody is the expert in conducting research. Everybody is a learner. Nobody is expert in any given research. Everybody is a learner. And then again, question is, when you go for that one, take one more point in mind. Make one structure in the sense that I'm talking about that Marx basic structure. When you say, let's say you want to study education, school in that matter, or college in that matter, education in that matter, then again question is it dependent on something else, or, okay, if education is dependent on something else, or something else is dependent on education? It can be both also. Does poverty create illiteracy, promote illiteracy, or does illiteracy promote poverty? What could be the reality? If I say illiteracy promotes poverty, you say, no, sir, it is wrong. Poverty promotes illiteracy. I see both correct. Both are correct. And when both are correct, they have created an ecology. Okay. It is easy for you to understand it, no doubt. But keep your mind open. If you have only one-dimensional man, that is also, there is a book called One-Dimensional Man, Modern Man or One-Dimensional. But at the same time, you need to have some sort of reverse observation to understand that what I might have left, or I should have taken into consideration in order to understand the totality. Okay. Therefore, in that case, you can see that both poverty and illiteracy, both are correlated and promoting each other. Thereby they created ecology, and social ecology is something you must take into consideration in conducting research. Okay. And anyway, these are the very primary things that you need to, okay, have in your mind before getting into the field. Okay. And make it a point that no, you have to conduct, but at the same time, everybody is a researcher, otherwise you cannot be a knower. In order to be a knower, in order to be a human being, by default, all we are knowers. Okay, you need to create it in that manner. And then question again is, okay, language is a very important part. How are you see this one? I'm good at writing. Otherwise, you can say I'm addicted to writing. I won't say I'm good at writing, but I'm addicted to writing. I write a lot. You may like it, you may not, but I write a lot. And there are three aspects to that in order to be a good writer. In this case, you need to be a good writer. Art of observation, art of articulation, and art of expression. You need to have sufficient command over language, over structure. Otherwise, you cannot create nuance. Very minute differences, okay, which, let's say, which are created in law, in legal arguments, legal drafting. You need to have sufficient, that's why art of observation, how am I going to understand it? Art of observation, art of articulation, how am I going to articulate it? And how am I going to present it, express it? Three things. If you are aware, your own mind will create questions and prepare you. But point is, inject questions to yourself. Okay. Carry lots of questions. No answer is final. No answer is final in human civilization. Man is in search of meaning. Man is in search of meaning. No answer is final. It is your time and place. To that extent, we are limited to. Consider it final. Beyond that, no. Okay, leave it to the next generation. But when you have to say something in your own generation, make it a point that what I say is correct one. Supported by methodology, supported by facts. Otherwise, it would be known as capital mistake. We use the term capital punishment. But there is another point, another term that is called capital mistake. To conclude anything without sufficient proof. Wish you all the best. If you have any questions for me to, okay, please go ahead.
Maybe you can, if you have any doubts and clarification, please. Questions also. No? Okay, you can. Okay, thank you so much. I think they don't have anything. They are very happy with you.
It is not a question of being see this one. First of all, it is, let's say, indiscriminate firing, the way it is taking place in Gaza Strip. Okay, and then that will take some patterns. In due course, all these firings will take some patterns. Then they will create questions. Questions may not come immediately, but these are the, let's say, indiscriminate firing, mental firing, okay, in your thought process. And if you think that no, certain questions are coming because someone said it, I could not appreciate it, that is also very good part. We do not learn unless and until we are confronted with. So therefore, confront yourself to anything and everything. If you cannot reject, accept it, so what? But you must try your best to say or try to negate it. It is not wrong in education, in learning. You must try, okay, with whatever best you have, to negate it. If you cannot reject it, only then accept it. And when you accept it, that will remain with you forever. Otherwise not. Don't take anything, okay, on face value, because you are science students. After all, social science students. Don't take anything on face value. Try your best to. Okay. And Brahma is known for that. I call him Brahma. Okay. We have lots of arguments. Okay. Anyway, continue, please.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure that people got a lot of deep understanding with your
No, I am also thankful to you because I can see that CMDR, that okay, conference room. I visited twice. I have lots of memory related to that.
True.
Okay.
It's true. Thank you.
Okay. So nice of you. So nice of you.
Thank you so much.
So nice of you. So nice of you. So nice of you. Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Okay. See you.